What's up, everybody? Welcome to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesar Sportsbook. I'm Katie Mox, and today we're talking NFL picks. Of course, it's your Thursday show, so we're going to get into everything for Week 7 of the NFL season. In order to do that, let's bring in our friend Kenny Bets Big. Kenny, I feel like I haven't seen you in a while. How's it going?
Yeah, I think it's been a couple weeks, right, since we were on here last, giving the people winners, making them money, making them laugh, giving the vibes.
Everything.
But yeah.
You're welcome.
I mean, you know what can't you get when you watch Katie and Kenny talking about sports, betting, everything, right?
Yeah, agreed. So let's get right into it and look at this Sunday slate. Obviously, we don't have enough time to go through every single game, but we picked our favorite spreads and money lines. We've picked some props for y'all, and of course, some totals. I like dogs this week, Kenny, but what would be your first money line or spread?
Yeah, so spread, we'll look at the Chargers. They're plus 5.5 against the Chiefs, right? Coming off that gross Monday night loss where, again, looks like Staley needs to be fired immediately with some of the calls he's making with that Chargers team. But, you look at the roster, they're stacked all around. You look at the offense, top 10 in EPA. Justin Herbert still doing things like Justin Herbert does out there, throwing the ball all over the field. They got Austin Ekeler back against the Cowboys. He looked okay. A couple carries. I think he had like 40 something yards, a couple catches. So I think against the Chiefs division matchup, the Chargers have played the Chiefs 4 times since Staley's taken over as the head coach. They're 1-3 straight up in those games. They've covered the spread every time, and they've been winning in every game in the fourth quarter. They've had the lead. And then they do what the Chargers tend to do, and they shoot themselves in the foot and they blow the game. So if you're giving me 5.5 points here, division matchup with the Chargers, I love that spot.
It's, I like them as dogs. I don't like Chargers really ever as favorites because they tend to lose in the last couple minutes of the game. But I feel like even with this, I agree with you. I like this 5.5. I'm taking Lions money line against the Ravens. I can't understand how the Ravens are favored in this spot. I know the Lions are dealing with some health issues, but if you look at the last game that the Ravens won in London, they won because Justin Tucker kicked 6 field goals. And it's like, you're not going to win that way against Detroit. Now, I've heard several people say that the Lions are the best team in the NFC right now. I'm not sure that I'm necessarily believing that, but when you look at the record and of the 5-1 teams, they've lost to who? The Seahawks, who are a pretty good team, and in overtime. Like the Niners had a bad loss. Eagles had a bad loss. The Miami Dolphins played a bad game. So consistency wise, Lions have been pretty good. And you look at Jared Goff, and he's been, I don't like to admit it, but he's been pretty good, averaging 280 pass yards per game, just about 2 touchdowns per game through 6 weeks. And you think about these Ravens and you're like, oh, their pass defense is elite, especially in the red zone. Like no one has thrown over 1 passing touchdown. But then look at the quarterbacks that they've gone against. Okay, rookie CJ Stroud, that was his first week. A banged up Joe Burrow, DTR, Pickett, Ryan Tannehill / Malik Willis. Like, yeah, it's not too hard to keep those guys out of the end zone. You know what I mean? And I know that there's going to be no David Montgomery, which is such a bummer, but Jahmyr Gibbs should be returning. They also should get back left guard Jonah Jackson. The Ravens are coming back from London, could be a little bit jet lagged, although we haven't exactly seen that yet. And the Lions' run defense ranks 5th in the NFL in success rate allowed at 31.7%. And overall, their defense is 8th in expected points allowed per play. So Detroit has all the momentum right now. They've won 4 straight games by at least 2 scores. I like them. And then what is it? Money line is plus 135.
Yeah, they're dogs in that spot, which like you everything you said, you would think, maybe this would be closer to like a pick 'em, especially with the Ravens coming back home, which I'll talk about, when we talk a little bit later about totals. I have a bet for that game, but I love that spot for the Detroit Lions.
All right. And then we're on opposite sides of this next one, aren't we?
Oh, yeah. Big time. You want to go first or you want me to take it?
You can take it, and then I will counter.
All right. Age before beauty, I see. So I'm going to go with the Eagles. I know, obviously, you're on the Dolphins for this one, but, we have the Eagles under a field goal at home, primetime game, coming off that ugly loss versus the New York Jets. And the Dolphins just feel like one of those teams where, we've seen it year in, year out where a team breaks out super hot. They're, doing all these crazy things. They're the darling of the league, talked about on all the sports shows. And then, at some point they kind of regress back to the mean and things kind of, come back down to earth.
Yeah.
And while I do think the Dolphins are a really good team and they will continue to have success throughout the season, I don't think they're as good as putting 70 points up on on teams that we've seen.
Well, the Broncos, come on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the Denver Broncos. Which what do you make of that? Do you remember Sean Payton in the offseason talking about
Yes.
how
Yes.
Nathaniel Hackett, one of the worst coaching jobs he's seen, and the Broncos are statistically worse in every single category than they were last year at this point in the season?
I think he must have jinxed himself. And, I do believe, and look, I don't wish bad things on Sean Payton at all. I mean, he's an absolute legend and was an incredible coach. But when you say things like that and you put it out into the universe, like it does just, it comes back around to bite you. And I think that is what's happening now. I mean, the thing is, too, is that obviously Sean Payton comes from the Saints. The Saints notoriously always are a defensive minded, very strong team. And the defense for the Broncos is just like you said, historically bad, not just for the franchise, but for the NFL as a whole. And I just think, it's a good lesson to be careful what you say because it's going to come back and bite you.
Yeah,
But yeah, and like,
I was gonna say
I
I
don't know,
don't know if
Russell
I
Wilson.
ever remember a team like if you remember the Broncos games last year, they were like losing games, like 20-17. Like the defense was giving up no points, and they were like
Yes.
talked about as one of the best
Yes.
defenses of all time. Fast forward a year, and they're like you said, they're historically bad this year. So it's crazy the difference a year makes.
It's so crazy. And like I'm sure he's like, why did I come out of retirement for this? And I don't even know what, Russell Wilson is thinking. Not that he's played that great, but the offense hasn't exactly been the problem. Like there has been opportunities there, but the defense just can't stop anything at all. Although I will say in the last couple of games, they have gotten a little bit better, but the bar is so low that like you can only go up. Or okay, so are we done with the Eagles? Can I go now or you got more?
No, you can go.
So I agree with everything that you're saying, and obviously the Eagles just lost to the lowly Jets. I guess I mean I read one stat that was like the first time ever in the 104 years of the sport. I don't necessarily believe that, but I do think that they won 12 in a row. So normally I would agree with you, and I'd say they're primed for like a big bounce back here. Jalen Hurts throwing 3 interceptions is just not something you're going to see every week, and the Dolphins are not that great on the defensive end of the ball. I mean they got Vic Fangio, they're a little bit better, but like I do think that the Eagles can move down the field. But I just don't think that this is the week for the bounce back because the Eagles secondary is still kind of banged up. Like even if they get Darius Slay back this week, I'm still going to give the edge to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle in those head-to-head matchups because you could have some older guys in your secondary at corner. And so I just feel like the scoring is just gonna be so high when it comes to Miami. I'm not sure with what I've seen with this Eagles offense that they're gonna be able to keep up with it if their secondary is a little bit banged up. Obviously, we gotta watch what's going on with Lane Johnson. He's got a grade 1 ankle sprain. It's not a high ankle sprain, which is great. Some reports say he's fine. He's totally coming back. He's still listed as questionable. I think that is a huge loss to their O-line and a big reason why they lost last week. So him coming back would be crucial. And you look at the Dolphins and how they've done on the road. They're 2-1 against the spread on the road, but I'm just going to take them straight up money line plus 113. And I also have to say, like, there's a little bit of haterade, pumping through my veins. I would love to see the Eagles lose 2 in a row, but I think this is a good spot for them to do it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, is there a little bit of that Niner fan creeping into this pick? Because this could, as crazy, both
Yeah.
teams have a crazy schedule coming up, the Eagles
Mhm.
and the Niners both. But like this game, in theory, it's crazy to say because what is this, week 7 now? We're
Yeah.
not even halfway through the season really. But this game could really determine who's the number 1 seed in the NFC.
Yeah.
So yeah, big game, a lot of playoff implications. But you know, great points. The Eagles banged up on the defensive side. Lane Johnson, which is a huge loss. They definitely need him back for this game. I just think stylistic wise, the Eagles can beat you in so many different ways offensively,
Yeah.
especially running the ball. Like, they're juggernauts with Swift, Hurts, all these running backs that they have back there. If they're able to, and we've seen it year in, year out, how do you beat these high powered offensive teams? You run the ball, you control the clock, and you kind of get the offense out of momentum and out of rhythm. And if the Eagles are able to run the ball, I don't see any reason why they can't win this game, especially under a field goal. If this was like 3.5, I would probably go the Dolphins. But if you're giving me Eagles at home 2.5 points under field goal, I like that spot for them.
Well, what I am gonna say, which I feel like is kind of in line with what we're both saying, I'm gonna take this over. It is the highest total on the board this weekend at 52, but also we didn't even talk about this. It's like the Alabama quarterback bowl between Tua and Hurts.
Yeah.
It's prime time. Both of these guys wanna show up and certainly, put up we know that Miami can put up points quickly, like when we just talked about it with the Broncos game. I mean, this offense is the best in football, averaging 498.7 yards per game on total offense. And the Eagles need a serious bounce back. So, again, I don't think Hurts is going to throw 3 interceptions here. The Dolphins defense ranks 26 in points allowed per game at 26 points per game. And 5 of Miami's past 6 road games have all gone over the total. And the total is also 2-0 at Lincoln Financial Field this season. So I think this is going to be a lot of fireworks.
Yeah, we're due for one of these primetime games where we get kind of, high
Yes.
potent
Please,
offenses.
a shootout.
Yeah, exactly. The NFL knows what they need to do here.
Yeah.
I think this could be one of those games where you could tease like the Dolphins with the under and the over, and then the Eagles with the under and the over. So you'll get like
Mm.
under 59, over 45 for the totals, and then like the Eagles, +3, and the Dolphins +9.5, or whatever the math
Yeah.
works out to be. I think this is one of those games where it's like you said, it's going to come down to it. It's going to be close at the end. Probably whatever team has the ball last wins the game.
And I hope it's the Miami Dolphins. All right, what's in the
I bet
total that
you
you're
do.
looking at?
For my total, I'm going to look at the Cardinals versus the Seahawks. Uh,
Oh, love it.
Cardinals, for all the bad mouthing of them, which I'm guilty of coming into the season, uh,
Risky.
they haven't looked terrible. They've been competitive in almost every single game thus far,
Yeah.
and we've seen that they can put up some points. And then you look over on the other side of the ball with the Seahawks. Their offense is elite, one of the best running games in the league. Geno Smith is, he's throwing the ball around. Like if we look at last week, they had 4 different times in the red zone where they had to settle for field goals or no points. So those things tend to, like I always talk about, if you follow the show or listen to me ad nauseum, like things tend to regress back to the mean, right? Like if a team's offense is moving the ball at will, but they're not putting up points, you can expect in the next game or two, they're going to have a game where they explode and put up a lot of points. And I think this is a prime spot for a Seahawks team that kind of needs a win here, coming off a tough loss.
I agree. I mean, the Cardinals, I think, totally guilty of being like, this is going to be the worst team, and really couldn't factor in the Panthers being the worst team. But I thought it was going to be the Bucks or the Cardinals, and the Panthers are just really, really bad. I think the Panthers are still the only winless team in the NFL, which is just 6 weeks is wild not to get a win. But anyways, then the Cardinals were super frisky and fun. And, we said, look, they're not going to win a lot of games, but they're going to make it tough for you. I do think that with James Conner going down, the offense was a little bit exposed. Really, they ran through the run game, and DeMarcado just kind of isn't it in terms of like a good replacement for James Conner. But I still think that Josh Dobbs is good. He's still a little bit frisky. So I agree. The Seahawks, it's almost like Legion of Boom 2.0 in the secondary and what they've been doing with their 2 cornerbacks out there. But I also think, to your point, yes, this is a great offense with the Seahawks. The Cardinals' pass defense is horrible. So I think this 44.5 is going to be because the Seahawks are blowing out the Cardinals. That's kind of where I see this one going. I know it's a divisional matchup, but I think this total is too low because I do think that the Seahawks are going to come out to
And
play.
for people listening at home, one thing you want to keep in mind when you're betting these totals are the key numbers. I know Katie talks about it a lot. Danny talks about it a lot. 44.5, you want to get that before it hits 45, because, oftentimes we see 24-21 type scores. That's 45 right there. So when you're betting totals and obviously spreads too, there's key numbers where you want to get the bet before it hits certain points, which, that 45 number, you want to hit this bet before it gets to 45 or higher.
I love it. All right, what's another total you're looking at?
So this one, we're going to go team total.
Okay.
Going back to that Lions-Ravens game, we're going to go Lions team total. Caesars has it over 20.5 at +105.
Ooh.
Yeah, so a little plus money. This is one I would prefer 20 points here. Just even 20 if they,
Well,
a couple touchdowns, couple field
I
goals.
would prefer 10 points. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But statistically, if you look at these London games, when teams come back the following week versus off of a London game, the defense tends to, whether it's jet lag or I don't know what it was, whether, maybe they're partying too hard over in London, who knows? The opposing team, they tend to go over their team total.
Right.
So I like the Lions here. You were talking about it earlier, how Jared Goff has, I think overperformed a lot of expectations when he got traded from the Rams, and he doesn't look bad at all in that offense. So I think the Lions can get 21 for us.
I love that 100%. I've got a prop bet that kind of goes hand in hand with that. I hate to do it, Kenny, but I also don't think you'll disagree with me here and take the Patriots team total under 16 and a half. It's at minus 125, which at this point it should be like minus 275. Yes, the Patriots scored 17 last week against the Raiders, but they have the second worst scoring offense in the NFL. No passing touchdowns for Jones, and no touchdowns plus an interception. Those were his stat lines last week. Obviously, the run game did pretty well. They average only 11 points per game through 6 weeks. They only scored a field goal in the 2 weeks prior to this. And then you look at their matchup, all right, the Bills. And the Bills are what, 8.5-point favorites or something? Like, the Bills have the third ranked defense in terms of points allowed at 14.8. And these are against the Bills have faced good teams because they've got, a first ranked schedule. So the Bills are facing good offenses and they're only allowing 14 points per game. And then you've got the Patriots who can't score to save their lives. Like, yeah, I'm fading this team total under 16 and a half. They may just get a field goal again.
Yeah, we were just talking about like the worst team in the league. I mean, I know the Panthers haven't won a game, and I'm a Patriots fan. The Patriots might be one of the worst teams in the league because, when you're watching the Panthers, they're not winning games, but the offense doesn't look that bad. When you watch the Patriots play, the offense is horrendous. Like, you're watching these plays they're running, it's just little gadget plays trying to make stuff happen, little 5-yard passes. It's like they're running offense from like the 80s and 90s, in a modern style football game. And, I know we talked about it in the preseason about teams potentially tanking for Caleb Williams. Bill Belichick, is got to be the friskiest coach of them all. And when it comes to strategy and, using the game in your favor, I wouldn't be surprised if Bill's strategy here is, hey, let's try and get Caleb Williams here because Mac Jones is not it. I know there was some hype around him coming out, but he is awful.
He is awful. And it's clear that they don't trust him or like him and that he doesn't believe in himself. He's got no confidence. I mean, Zach Wilson finally has a little bit of confidence. Mac Jones has absolutely none. Somebody was telling me, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but somebody was telling me that there was like a clip where Bill Belichick was like on, or maybe it was Sean. No, okay, never mind. This doesn't, well, same thing, but different. But Sean Payton, we're talking about how bad, he's been coaching. Sean Payton, back when he was on Fox, and he was talking about Caleb Williams, last year being like, oh, there's going to be so many coaches tanking for Caleb Williams. And then I'm like, is that what he's doing right now this season? But yeah, I wouldn't put it past Bill Belichick to do that either. Once you know that it's not going anywhere, then you got to start thinking ahead. And like you said, Billy B, one of the best in the league. All right, let's talk.
Hold on, because what's crazy about I thought the Broncos might be tanking too for Caleb. The Broncos traded their first round pick for Sean Payton. So the Broncos don't actually have a first round pick.
I mean, the comedy of it all, right? The comedy of it all. It's crazy. All right, on that note, we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk Sunday props and also give some locks for TNF tonight. Don't go anywhere. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words, Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the type of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. Back here on Moxie Bets, presented by Caesars Sportsbook with my guy, Kenny Bets Big, previewing the NFL slate for Week 7. We've already told you what our money line and spread bets are. We've talked about some totals. Now we're going to get into some prop bets. And Kenny, you've got one for tonight's game.
Yep. One for the Saints on the Saints side. We're going to go Alvin Kamara over 31.5 receiving yards. Since he's returned from whatever he was doing, he's averaging right around 26 yards a game. The Jaguars are one of the worst teams in the league at defending the running back out of the backfield, like catching the ball. Giving up right around 41 yards per game. So Kamara, one of the best receiving running backs in the NFL. I think the Saints will try and highlight him and feature him, little screen passes, little dump downs, and try and get him going early and often. So I like him over receiving yards. That's minus 113 on Caesars. And I also think he'll get over his catches as well.
I love that. I have him over his receiving yards as one of my best bets for tonight as well. So riding with you on that one, especially because they've been pretty vulnerable to. They're great against the run, but they've been vulnerable against backs in the receiving game. So totally agree with you there. I'm going back to this, Detroit game and taking Goff over the 1.5 passing touchdowns. Obviously, if I like the money line, he's got to score a couple touchdowns. If they're going to get over the 20.5, he's going to have to score a couple touchdowns. Is that 104? And again, when you look at the Ravens red zone defense, you're like, oh my God, only Joe Burrow has gotten more than one passing touchdown. They're really good. But again, rookie CJ Stroud, DTR, Pickett, Ryan Tannehill, Malik Willis, like, duh, they didn't get into the end zone. And I know a lot of people are worried with Montgomery going down that it's going to make Goff one dimensional. And now that he has to throw the whole time, what's going to happen? I'm not exactly worried about it. Ravens team ranked 25th in pressure rate and bottom half in hurry rate. So he's going to have some time to make those good decisions. He also ranks fifth in touchdown passes among the starting quarterbacks at 11 this season. He's good for at least one per game in the last 6 games, but he has had multiple touchdowns in 3 of those, including hitting over on this prop in 2 of the last 3 games. So Goff at plus money to get 2 passing touchdowns just feels free to me.
Yeah, I love that because even though Montgomery's out, Jahmyr Gibbs is coming back, and he's very similar to Alvin Kamara. He gets a lot of those comparisons where Jahmyr Gibbs is great at catching the ball out of the backfield. So even if he's dumping them down to Gibbs out of the backfield, that's another more opportunities for him to throw a touchdown. So yeah, I like that spot a lot.
Let's go. And then, Kenny, you know that I love a quarterback interception prop. And I've been money this year on fading quarterbacks and getting their interceptions. And then last week I changed my tune. I thought, you know what? This will be the first week that Jimmy Garoppolo has a clean game, because I was looking at the Patriots pass defense and I was like, okay, this is the time. And then he throws it on the very first, So we're back to what makes us money, and we are fading quarterbacks. Desmond Ridder to get an interception, minus 114. He's got 6 interceptions so far, third most in the NFL, 3 last week. One of them was that potential game tying one in the end zone, like late in the game, like just awful, awful, awful. Tampa Bay creates pressure up front. Their defense has 15 sacks on the season, but their pass defense ranks 26th, allowing 247 yards per game. So you got to think, like, in the first couple of games, Desmond Ridder, they weren't really letting him throw. They've been letting him air it out a little bit more, getting their passing game going. You think, oh, Tampa Bay, 26th in pass defense. This is a game where we can let him out. But then they create that pressure and they get those sacks. Both of those things lead to me to getting interceptions, and it's actually been proven so far this season. They have picked off every single quarterback they've played except for Derek Carr. Goff had 2, Cousins had 2, Hurts had 1, Fields had 1. Desmond Ridder will have at least 1.
Yeah, I mean, I got nothing to argue you there. I mean, I bet on the Falcons last weekend. Desmond Ridder made a couple head scratching plays. The coaching, like, they're down 14 points. They score a touchdown. They go for 2. Like, why are you going for 2 there? They don't get it. Now they're down. You know what I mean? Like,
going for 2 is the most controversial thing. It's like, there's rare where I'm like, yes, that was a good time to go for 2. But it's either like they go for it when they shouldn't go for it, or they just don't do it and they lose the game. Like, who was that who was playing the Eagles?
Commanders.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, like that's exactly right. Like that time, you're the inferior team. You're playing the better team on the road.
Yeah, the momentum.
You got to go for the win, Riverboat Ron. But he's getting
Paddleboat Ron.
Yeah,
Stucky, our friend Stucky renamed him that, and now it's Stucky.
It's got to stick. We should get the Moxie Bets merch going. It's like somebody's going to throw picks. Yeah, come on, we got to get the merch pumping out of here, man. We're missing the boat. Think about all the bets we can make with that money, Katie. Come on.
Yes. all the quarterback interception props I could do with the extra cash. What's one more prop bet you're looking at?
Yeah. Austin Ekeler, anytime touchdown. Talked about how I liked the Chargers earlier, but the Chargers kind of go as Ekeler goes sometimes. He's like their Swiss Army knife. He's running the ball. Yeah. He's catching the ball. He got stopped just short of the end zone a few times against Dallas. So plus 119, Caesars is given. Caesars, they're generous sometimes with these odds. Like plus 119 on Ekeler to score a touchdown sounds free to me. So that's one I'm going to throw a few bucks at.
And that's why we love our Caesar Sportsbook. All right, so let's move on and let's talk about Thursday night football. The Jags are 2 the line is 2. Jags are dogs. Wow, talk Mox. Saints are favored by 2, and the over is 40. Very, very low. We're still trying to figure out what's going on with Trevor Lawrence. He banged up his knee in the last game. He's listed as questionable. He seems to think that he's playing, but obviously I think that is going to affect this a lot. So if you're listening to this on Thursday, make sure that you know if Trevor Lawrence is playing or not before you put a bet in. But in just looking at this right now, Kenny, what are some things that you like?
So this is a tough game because not only is Trevor Lawrence injured, but there's some pieces on the Jaguars offense as well that are going to be missing. Some of their receivers, and then you look at the Saints; they're banged up on the O line. Some key guys for them. So this is a tough game. It's a pretty ugly matchup. I lean the Saints here, and the fact that the line's moving, like it was 1 earlier when I woke up this morning. Now it's at 2, 2.5, depending where you look. Kind of makes me think that the people who know things know that Trevor Lawrence is probably not going to play here. So I would lean the Saints in this spot. You have the Jags coming off the 2 games in London. Then they had a division game last week against the Colts. So this is like a perfect, kind of overreaction. The Jags coming in off on a 3-game win streak. They're kind of getting rolling. And then, they go up against a really good defense in the Saints at home. And, everyone's betting the Jags and then they kind of get crushed. So I lean Saints in this spot. And I kind of think the under is a play, but I would wait to make sure Trevor Lawrence isn't going to play.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. And if he does play, I'm looking to take him under on his rushing yards prop because I don't think he's going to be moving. It's probably going to be like at half a yard or something. Because with a banged up knee, you're definitely not going to want to put yourself in that position. I also kind of lean under Calvin Ridley. His receiving yards is at 52.5. One, if the quarterback is banged up and he's playing, plus Ridley kind of hasn't been his like number one target, and the Saints defense again has been very good. So don't know how successful he'll be there. Derek Carr on the other end, like the Saints aren't very good and they don't score a lot, but he is very aggressive at throwing the ball. And when you look at this Jags defense, they're very stingy against the run. So for the Saints to win, they're going to have to be throwing the ball a lot. I like Derek Carr over 235.5 passing yards. I'm on the Alvin Kamara prop. I believe it's at 30.5 now on his receiving yards. I think that, obviously those two go hand in hand. And then just for like a little frisky one, how about Chris Olave for the first touchdown at plus 950?
Plus 950 it is. I can get behind that. I'm shocked you're not on the Derek Carr to throw a pick here.
I will be on that. Thank you for telling me. I will be. You know what? I have to be on that because here's the thing. Especially when I go into my show later at night with CBS, the one time I did not do, I did. It was Matt Stafford, which obviously Matt Stafford to throw an interception is everyone who knows me knows that's my favorite bet in the history of betting. And for some reason, I took him over on his passing yards. And my producer wrote me, he was like, because you're not doing Matt Stafford throwing an interception. What's wrong with you? I don't even know you anymore. And I was like, oh my God, haha. He doesn't get over on his passing yards and he gets the interception. So thank you for this, Kenny, and reminding me who I am and what I do. And I'm not going to take him over on his passing yards and I'm going to take him for the interception.
Yeah, I think this is because of the things you're saying, like the Jags, they're a risky defense too. Like they're willing to take risks to go for the pick and make some gambles. I could see Derek Carr serving one up for sure.
Oh, I so can see that as well. All right, Kenny, thank you so much for joining us today. You can follow him on social at Kenny Bets Big. This has been Moxie Bets presented by Caesar Sportsbook. Don't forget to follow us on social as well at Moxie Bets. Good luck with all of your bets this weekend, and we'll see you Monday for Niners Monday Night Football. Let's go.